Gentlemen, all protocols observed. Good morning to you all. It is an honor and privilege to welcome you to the launch of the FinScope 2024, and this event is themed Financial Inclusion in Rwanda, from Access to Usage and the Benefits. Indeed, Rwanda has made numerous strides from access to usage, and you distinguished participants and stakeholders here present have had your role to play. My name is Ingrid Kyuzuzo. I work at the National Bank of Rwanda in the Financial Sector Development and Inclusion Department, and I'm pleased and honored to be your MC today. Since 2008, FinScope reports have allowed us to be data-driven while we are critical of the gap in the access and usage of financial services, but also be appreciative of the progress over time. Of course, the achievements didn't come by themselves. They result from many government and private sector initiatives for financial inclusion, financial education, digitalization, and other policies. Now, to start us off, let us all welcome the CEO of Access to Finance Rwanda to deliver opening remarks.
Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Honorable Ministers here present, Excellency the Ambassador of Sweden in Rwanda, Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, CEOs and MDs of financial institutions, CEOs of mobile network operators, development partners, fintech leaders, the media fraternity, distinguished guests here present, and those following online. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. We are gathered here today as partners and key stakeholders from the public and private sector, mainly players in the financial industry. We have non-governmental organizations and development partners, and we are here for the launch of the Rwanda FinScope 2024 report, but also to celebrate and reflect on our collective achievements in promoting access to and use of financial products and services to Rwandan citizens. On behalf of distinguished partners who spearheaded the Rwanda FinScope 2024 survey, namely the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, the National Bank of Rwanda, the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, and of course Access to Finance Rwanda, it's my distinct honor and joy to welcome you all for the launch of the Rwanda FinScope 2024 Main Indicators Report. Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a tradition, as Ingrid said, and indeed a good tradition, every 4 years since 2008, for all of us to pause and reflect, but very importantly hear the voices of beneficiaries of financial services and products across Rwanda through FinScope survey. And as we pause, we also look at the findings and collectively formulate strategies and interventions to address any identified constraints. The 2024 Rwanda FinScope report is quite unique. It is unique because it is the first FinScope survey conducted post-COVID-19 pandemic, and the other economic shocks that you know that followed COVID over the last 4 years. This really provides valuable insights into how these shocks have affected the access and usage of financial services and how financial sector players have been responding to these imperatives. The past FinScope consumer surveys were driven by the need to generate credible information or evidence to guide policy interventions and financial sector providers in their efforts to expand the reach and depth of the Rwandan financial ecosystem. In 2024, the focus is shifting from mere financial inclusion or access to inclusive finance. Finance becomes inclusive from the moment when it enables a given beneficiary, such as a household, a woman entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur, or a smallholder farmer, or SMEs, MSMEs, to access a suite of products and services which respond to their specific needs and goals. Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are launching this FinScope report under the theme, as you can see, Beyond Access to Usage and Benefit. And I wish to invite you all, or invite us all, to actively engage in today's discussions, as your contributions will help in shaping our future initiatives towards transforming the livelihoods of Rwandans through usage of appropriate financial products and services. As we reflect on the numbers that will be presented shortly, let us all remember that behind the numbers, there are people who have aspirations for a better life, like all of us, and deserve utmost attention and support. Once again, I welcome you all and thank you for your participation in this very important event. Murakoze cyane, thank you, merci infiniment.
And thank you very much, CEO, as well, for the warm welcome remarks. Now, I'm sure no one wants to hear any other thing but the numbers, right? People who have been quoting FinScope 2020 until yesterday, this is the time now we move to FinScope 2024. But before we get into the numbers, just give me 5 more minutes so that we look at how actually these numbers reflect to us regular people livelihoods. AV team, if you could please show the video.
Welcome to the launch of RWANDA FinScope 2024, a survey that assessed how the landscape of financial services access and usage has changed in Rwanda since the year 2020, when the last FinScope report was produced. The report findings indicate that financial inclusion is relatively high in the country and is revolutionizing the livelihoods of the Rwandan population, especially the unserved and underserved segments, as testified by citizens benefiting from various financial products and services.
batanu bashobora kwishyura mu ntoki abenshi nabishyura telefone bamaze kumenya umutekano w'amafaranga y'inoti akunda gucika n'umutekano wa mbere n'ibiceri kandi nabyo birasaza ariko amafaranga ari kuri telefone ubona yabyizeye
iyo ushaka wenda hari gushyira amafaranga kuri MTN uyakuye kuri Tigo urayohereza birakunda wayakura kuri Tigo uyashyira kuri MTN birakunda cyane kuba ntabwo wakoresheje Airtel Money ukayakira kuri Mobile Money yumvikana.
ugasanga n'abaturage bari kwiruka ku masako buri munsi nimuduha amafaranga kandi ntiyari yahagera uburyo bw'ikoranabuhanga icyo bwakemuye iyo mesaje yaje bayoherereza rimwe buri muturage wese ubwo abazi ko amafaranga ahari.
ntabwo ari ibihe bigeze ubu ngubu ikidusaba kuza aha ngaha kuri koperative kubonana n'abayobozi bayo cyangwa se abakozi, ahubwo hari uburyo twashyiriweho bwa EWRT ku buryo dushobora kubona ayo mafaranga aho twaba turi hose bitabaye ngombwa ko tuza ku cyicaro.
nyuma y'uko tujya mu bwishingizi biza byarabaye nubwo bitabaye ku rwego runini, ariko ibyabaye byose byarishyuwe. Bivuga ngo babifashe nk'umuco kuko mbere y'uko bagira icyo bakora mu bijyanye n'ubuhinzi bagomba kubanza bakishingira cya gihingwa bagiye guhinga.
Ejo heza ni gahunda dushishikarije kugira ngo twizigamire kugira ngo amafaranga azagoboke mu gihe umuntu aba atakibashije gukora.
utajya muri ejo heza namushishikariza kujya muri ejo heza kuko ni nziza iyo urebye abakecuru bari ubu mu gihe bafashwa na leta, ariko mu gihe uri muri ejo heza uzaba utunzwe n'ibyo wizigamye.
reka turebe ku gice cy'impunzi by'umwihariko abaturage ntababashaga kwasesera serivisi z'imari kubera yuko icya mbere izo banki zari kure, ariko icya kabiri cy'umwihariko kikaba ko ibyangombwa bari bafite andi mabanki atemera ko bashobora kwifuzaho konti. twaje hano rero kugira ngo nibura abaturage bafite ibyo bibazo babashe gufungura konti, bazigame hafi ndetse n'inguzanyo tuzibahere hafi.
Tutangura gufata inguzanyo twatanguye gufata inguzanyo y'amajana 500 y'amanyarwanda, tumaze kuyifata gatatu turayikoresha, ubucuruzi bwacu buraguka.
nta macika amafaranga muhira mu nzu ikiyongeye ko nacyo ukongera gufata inguzanyo nk'impunzi atangwa dufise.
The financial inclusion journey has been progressing since the year 2008, when the first FinScope survey was carried out. In 2008, the first FinScope survey showed that only 48% of the adult population in Rwanda were financially included. In 2012, the number increased to 72%. In 2016, 89% of the adult population was financially included, and the trend reached 93% in the year 2020. Where are we in 2024? Stay tuned. New findings are to be unveiled shortly.
Thank you very much. Now let's all welcome Mr. John Gwirahira, the Head of Research and Information at Access to Finance Rwanda, to help us answer that question.
Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. It is indeed a great pleasure to be here today to share with you this insight on on FinScope 2024. It is indeed a great pleasure that we will be revealing some of the key information that were kept secret in that video. It is true that you might not find all the details you want in this single report. FinScope is a huge amount of information, and on top of this, we also intend to produce additional thematic reports that are specific to sectors. and we are anticipating to also produce 10 thematic reports on top of this main indicators report, including the gender, youth, digital financial services, people with disabilities, refugee, MSMEs, financial, health, agriculture, insurance, and provincial or district profiles. So the overall objective of this FinScope survey were to assess the trend or the changes that happened since we conducted the last FinScope, that's in 2020, and more specifically identify the drivers and barriers to financial access and usage. We also think that this will generate insight for the dialogue between the public and private, of course leading to putting in place mechanism for promoting financial inclusion further. We also intended to assess the financial health of Rwandan. And this is done for the second time, and I will explain what financial health is in this presentation. Methodologically, it's standardized methodology that is used across countries, and of course, cognizant that there has been a lot that have happened in terms of changes in the financial sector, including the COVID and other shocks that our CEO highlighted well. We started by conducting stakeholders consultation. That was to ensure that the data that is going to be collected is responding to the needs of actors on the market. Of course, we ran the survey between December and January, and early Feb. And of course, we had our questionnaire translated in Kinyarwanda for ease of use. In terms of coverage, we used the 2022 census as our sample frame. Of course, you would see some differences in terms of numbers because the 2020 survey used previous census as the sample frame. And we were able to achieve about 14,000 households for the consumer survey. But also for the first time, we also included a subsample of refugees that around 900 household refugees also participated. This is very important because there is a strategy for financial inclusion of refugees by the government of Rwanda, but also the UNHCR. Overall, after weighting our data set, we achieved our total population of 16 years and above. This is the targeted population, was at 8.2 million. So overview the key findings. This is some of the key demographics from the survey that we have. The 8.2 is the total population, and of course the distribution of the population reflects the same pattern as we have them in the census, with about 70% of our population living in rural area. The education still, of course, showed still very low. So primary education of our respondent, our respondent has the education level of our primary education and lower. We have government officials that also participated in the survey. We have 1% of refugees and 11% who are self-employed. So these are demographics generally that you'll find in the report. So this is the framework for financial, for measuring financial access and usage. And this is also standardized. So by definition, financial inclusion, or people who are financially included, are those that use formal or informal mechanism formal or informal financial services. That implies that those that do not use neither formal or informal are excluded by definition. These are the ones that we qualify as financially excluded. And under the financial inclusion, we can have those that are formally served and those that are informally served. Formally served are those that are served by financial institutions that are formal, that are regulated by the central bank, and so on, while the informal are those mechanisms that are not regulated. We would quote some, including the tontines or money lenders that are not like institutionalized. And within the formally served, we could also divide that into two categories. There are those that are banked, those using commercial banks, and those that use other formal non-bank financial services. This is like those using microfinance institutions, insurance, and many more, pension, non-deposit taking financial institutions, and so on. I've now revealed the question that was asked in the video. Of course, currently we're happy to say that 96% of the Rwandan are financially included. Quite a long journey, doubled from when the first FinScope was produced. That's 48% to 96%. But also, we are seeing more formalization, use of more formal financial services that increased from only 21% to 96%. And from these numbers and the trend and trajectory that we are observing here, we could also see the inputs that many people put in, and our CEO put it rightly. We see government, role of government, especially the establishment of SACCOs and so on. We see the role of development partners in supporting those initiatives. We see the role of bankers in extending the financial services to reach more people. We see the role of non-government financial institutions that are also supported in grouping and informal groupings that then formally graduated, and as I will show, into formalization. So I think those range of stakeholders that participated deserve a round of applause, if you allow. Let's go over the overview of the financial inclusion now. The formally included, of course, moved from 93 to 96. Formally served, of course, also significant increase from 72 to 92, 77 to 92. The banked, we still have 22%. Of course, there has been a change in the population, and the pattern as shown, and I highlighted that when I started. So the census, taking 2012 as the sample frame, and yet as we took 2022 as a sample frame. So of course, there has been slight increase in population, but in terms of proportion, we're still at the same rate, same percentage, which is 22%. Other formal increase, informal decreased. Of course, we would like to see further decrease, because the decrease in informal, of course, will signal that people are moving from informal to more formal financial services. So, and the financial exclusion has now reduced by 3 percentage points from 7 to 4%. Actually, would have wished to see a zero somewhere. No red colors on this graph. It's the same graph, but this time, while the first one used for the banks, we only considered those that have a bank account, but there are those also that use financial services, the bank services, without bank accounts, those that pay school fees, they pay taxes and so on. These are qualified as over the counter. So if we add them to to the banked, we would now increase our percentage to 31%, moving to a decrease from 36%. But we will be consistent with the 22%, that's the real users of the bank services. This is now the strand, financial access strand. As I said, banked is 22%, other formal non-bank financial services at 70%, and we've moved from 77 to 92 with that inclusion. And more interestingly is that we've reduced the proportion of population that used informal financial services, that is from 16 to 4%. This is that if we were to unpack these other formal, we would see that Momo represent 91%, circles and so on. But in this case, by Momo, we mean the users of mobile wallet or electronic money. So it's taken globally, not necessarily the type of Momo we might think of here. The key drivers of this change, more specifically in the other formal, is the mobile money, and with the definition that I just used. So users of mobile money have increased from 62 to 86. This is a big achievement, and we'll see that keep coming across all the different segments of users of financial services. This is the overlap. It's showing that Rwandans use different financial mechanisms. We don't simply rely on one. Of course, we have those that banked, but also use other formal, or have other formal, but at the same time have bank account, but also have participate in informal sector. So this is the picture of how it looks like, how we combine the different mechanisms that exist. And of course, you will see that more trend, there's a shift towards increasing the intersection between the informal and other formal and non-bank and informal. So the combination, so more than 50% of our population is combining other formal and informal mechanisms. If you go by gender now, we are seeing the same pattern with decrease in formal gender gaps. Gender gap for access to formal services by gender has decreased from 4% from 8% to 4%. And you'll see that male are more banked than women, a gap of 10%. But also, you'll see that the general gender gap remained the same at 1%. So the higher formalization of women is also observed, so moving from 54% to 73%. So the formalization is more higher among women than male. This is by sector, and you will see that the formal sector and self-employed people with businesses are more likely to be banked than any other person, while those that are still dependent and those that are more into informal activities are the ones that are more likely to be excluded. So as we get into activities that are more formal, that's when we are likely to be banked. By area, urban, of course, same trend as we saw last time. So urban compared to rural, so more people in urban, people living in urban are more likely to be banked than those in rural, and the gap remained again at 1%. For the provinces, we'd see that the southern province And the Western Province are the ones with the higher rates of exclusion, with Kigali, of course, having more people who are banked than any other places. This is too small for the district, but the key message here is that we still have 12 districts with higher exclusion than the national average. And this calls, of course, the efforts of all of us to see or to devise mechanism for addressing these issues. Compared to other countries where FinScope was recently conducted, and that's starting 2016, Rwanda is not doing that bad. We have South Africa that has the lowest financial exclusion, and Rwanda and Ghana are at the same time. And of course, in the region, you would see that some are even have higher, more than around 20% of their population who are still financially excluded. So I think it's a good message, and universal access to financial services is within reach in Rwanda. If we look at special groups, youth, again, the use of other formal financial services has increased. And of course, the exclusion also reduced from 12% of the youth from the same category, 16 to 30 years. So reduced by half from 12 to 6%. And more youth, the younger youth between 16 and 17 are more likely to be excluded, and the same as the old people, the 60 years and above. These also are likely to be excluded. For disabilities, we reduced the level, the financial exclusion from 9 to 7, but still very high compared to the national average of 4%. The use of those that are banked kind of remain the same, but you'd see a shift of more formalization using of other formal financial services and the reduction of informal people with disability. So there is more formalization. The same pattern that we observed under other categories are also observed on this. This is for farmers. Banked are still very low. We'd like to see more farmers accessing banked, because that's where they get more resources to invest into farming activities, but you see more of them into other formal, and some still in the informal mechanism only. So in terms of savings, very low. Of course, we would have expected more than that, and only 9% have taken loan from banks, but again, you see that it's around 30% that accessed from formal financial services. And as I said, for the first time, we've included refugees. Very interestingly, refugees are likely to be more banked than the Rwandan population. They are, I see the UNHCR. But that's mainly driven by the cash transfer that is given to them, not necessarily the saving and credit. So as we celebrate, but I think we also need to put things into context. Yeah, and that's only 11% are saving in banks, and 5% getting loans from banks. But I think it's also really showing that it's even different from what would be expected from other countries. This really is something that is encouraging. Comparing FinScope with other countries where they have refugees, honestly, this is a surprise to all of them. Use of financial services now. And that's where our CEO mentioned beyond access. Access is good, and we've seen that. But in line with using financial services, saving, you see a decrease in banks, but generally there has been an increase from 51% to 59%. That's the increase of people saving through formal mechanism. But again, saving within the banks, commercial banks, is really reducing, and we see we'll expect, I think, more explanation from the panel discussion that will happen today. Credit, 2% increase overall, and that's driven by 2% increase within the people benefiting from loan from commercial banks. That's only 2%. Surprisingly, many people who are not borrowing are recorded in this FinScope compared to the last one. I think there are all these shocks, but I think this calls for all of us to ensure that we address some of the challenges that people are facing in accessing credit. Insurance and pension. Great improvement in insurance, and we've seen 10% increase, but again, I think that is still low to what we would expect. Pensions, and that's mainly driven by one of the contributors of this change in insurance is the National Agriculture Insurance Scheme. On the pension, Ejoheza has played a very key role, and we've seen tremendous change from 7% to 25%. Of course, we would like to see more of these numbers increasing, but we really appreciate the role of these two government initiatives. Remittance. More remittance, of course, comes through other formal and more specifically MOMO. And banks, of course, we've seen some increase in those that use banks, but still very low. But also it depends on how it is easy for people to transact or make transfer of money. So MOMO and other formal are dominant in this area. Use of digital financial services, tremendous increase from 30 to 73%. And of course, this would signal the adoption of digitization, but also showing some level of interoperability between the operators. We assessed the impact of COVID on financial services, use of financial services, and would see that COVID has led to the use. Some people start using digital financial services, and others really using it much, so using it frequently. So on mobile money, we have 9% that started using it, and 13% that really using it intensively. So you'd also see the shape on saving money, in sending money to someone living in different places. Saving groups also increased people participating in that. So this is also was like a booster to start thinking of a mechanism to become more resilient to any potential shocks. And talking about shocks, we have 69% that experienced climate change related shocks in general, and unfortunately some of them still think that if the same shocks were to happen, most of, like a third of them would rely on government support. So I think, again, this calls on all of us to really ensure that we've built the capacity to cope with climate-related shocks to our citizens. Financial health. This is the newly introduced also starting in 2020. And this measures the ability to manage the current financial obligations smoothly and have confidence in their financial future. So planning for today, but also ensuring that we have a better future financially. So we manage every decision that we make. So this reflects on 4 dimensions. Number one being the ability to manage day-to-day financial transactions. That's control of spending, means to close liquidity gaps, and so on. The second being taking advantage of opportunities whenever there is a good opportunities. So we'll take that for investment or setting goals that have to be achieved financially. And this third one is the resilience against shock. That's the ability and means to raise emergency fund, means of responding to any potential shock. And the last one is having control over one's financial decisions. So all these, there is a range of questions and indicators that are computed, and this index would range by this. If the score is between 0 and 20 and 24, somebody would qualify as extremely financially vulnerable. If the score was between 24 and 49, that person would qualify as financially vulnerable. Those that financially coping are within the range of 50 to 74, and those qualifying to be called financially healthy are within the range of 75 and 100. And this is the situation we have. We only have 10% of our people who are financially healthy. We still have, there has been some change, of course. 10% of adults who were financially unhealthy or vulnerable last time have moved into kind of coping area. So we have 3%. This is the numbers that we have that fall under each category. So would really wish to see good picture, people moving faster, and many of them moving into financially coping and financially healthy. And we hope to see this happening in the next FinScope. So thank you so much for your attention.
So I think that was for John for the great presentation. Now I want another round of applause for yourselves for achieving this and contributing to this. Great. Thank you very much. But I mean, if that's how you clap for yourselves, I don't think you're very confident in your achievement. Much better. Thank you very much. And as I said, as also CEO Yachu mentioned, and John, truly, this is an effort. First of all, from not in any order of priority, but from everyone, from the financial service providers, from the mobile network operators, from the pension and insurance providers, from the government institution who heavily invests in financial inclusion, financial education, different policies and strategic orientation documents. So really a great thank you, and there's still progress to be made. And it's a great opportunity that we have the data to back up what we do in the next, in the upcoming years. Our next speakers are going to help us to think and criticize some of the numbers, ask ourselves questions, and probably form some strategies of how to harness this usage and to ensure that people are really benefiting from financial inclusion and financial services. This panel is going to discuss everything beyond access to financial services. What are the strategies to enhance usage and benefits of financial services to the economy and to the panel and to the people of Rwanda? Now, to moderate this panel discussion, let us all welcome Mr. Herbert Asimwe, the head of Financial Sector Development Department at the Ministry of Finance. You're welcome, Herbert.
Thank you, Ingrid. All protocols observed. Without further ado, allow me to introduce the panel. Allow me to invite Honorable Deputy Governor to join us. Allow me to invite Ivan Murenzi, the DG NISR, to join us. Allow me to invite Managing Director Patience Mtesi, BPR Bank Rwanda. The Managing Director, BK Insurance, Alex Bahizi, join us kindly. Mr. Jean-Claude Gaga, the Managing Director, Airtel Money Rwanda. Thank you very much. I'll start with you, Honorable Deputy Governor. Would you kindly speak into these numbers? What do these numbers speak to the financial sector? What should we take out of these numbers today? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Herbert, Honorable Minister, Honorable Governor, Excellency Ambassadors, and distinguished guests. Good morning to you all. And I wanted first to thank the members of the steering committee that worked on this FinScope 2024 survey. And we are really delighted as Central Bank to see the progress made, not only on the financial inclusion rate of Rwandans, but more specifically on the numbers of Rwandans who are formally included, meaning using formal financial services. A jump of 15 percentage point is not something that you would see in many countries, and it's something that really I think we could all be proud of as stakeholders, being the financial institutions themselves, but also policymakers and regulators. And you asked, what does that mean for the financial sector? We have CEOs of financial institutions here, but probably I'll go to what it means for a financial regulator and a central bank. We've been using the data from the FinScope surveys, starting from 2008, to guide us in, one, looking at the barriers for Rwandans to access financial services and what as regulator we can do to improve that rate. Starting 2008, as you remember, that's from the FinScope survey that government started the establishment of Umurenge SACCOs, which are also regulated by the central bank. Secondly, having telecom companies starting financial services needed a regulatory framework and acceptance by the financial regulator that telcos can offer financial services. So that has really driven, as you've seen, the uptake of financial services in our country via mobile money services. When we look at the latest FinScope survey, what they indicated in 2020 was efforts that needed to be made for the underserved communities. And some of the initiatives that the central bank took was really gearing to have policy initiatives that, one, are geared towards closing the gender gap, and we are really happy that the gender gap, which was around 9%, if I'm not mistaken, is now at 4%. So this has had an impact. Some of the initiatives I can mention were, one, having gender desegregated data that the central bank collects for financial institutions through our electronic data warehouse. I know all CEOs of financial institutions here know that automatic reporting, when we have real-time data on not only their financials, but also, let's say, credits that are being dispersed, opening of accounts, and desegregated by gender. And this gives us a picture of where we are in terms of making sure that we don't have an increasing gender gap. The second initiative that was conducted by the Central Bank in partnership with global not-for-profit, Women's World Banking, but also the University of Oxford, is to design gender-inclusive finance policy initiatives. These are policies that help us influence how financial institutions can design, for instance, products that have a gender lens. And as you recall, last year we first issued the guidelines for developing gender-inclusive finance products for our financial institutions. And I'm glad that our MC was among the team that developed it internally. Another initiative was a policy initiative to strengthen access to mobile money for women in rural areas. You've seen that there's still a gap between access to finance for people in urban and rural areas, and then for women specifically. And we really use the FinScope data of 2020, but also the gender thematic report to look at barriers that prevent women to access mobile money services, even when they have access to mobile phones. So we started with 2 districts that had the highest financial exclusion rate, Nyaruguru in the southern province and Nyamasheke in the western province. And we are glad to see that up to 8,500 women have now been trained on using mobile money services in partnership with mobile network operators. So those are some of the initiatives that we have done as Central Bank based on these data. Now I think from the numbers we just had, of course, as Central Bank, we looked at the positive news, but also what is concerning is now people have access to bank accounts at 92% level, but are they saving more? Are they having access to credit? And this is what CEO Yachu was mentioning, so beyond access, the usage. So I think now as we go forward, our target really in the next 4 years is to have 0% financial exclusion, but also see the numbers on savings, on investments, on credit, but also having more of our assets being insured. That will be really the key priorities going forward. Maybe I'll pause here and we can come back to all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You made the key points that I pick is that these numbers should be able to help us design new strategies, new policies, but also new innovations to take the sector to another level. With that, I'll over to you, Director General Ivan. The theme today is beyond access. The question is it yet the time to celebrate? What should beyond access mean to us? We have 96% inclusion, but we all know the quality of services that our citizens still uptake. When we say beyond access, what do we want to communicate to the policymakers, financial sector, stakeholders, the partners in the room, and those watching online? What do we want to communicate when we say beyond access? Thank you.
Thank you, Herbert. And it's a pleasure to be here. Honorable Minister, Honorable Ministers present, the Governor, and other leaders. I'm coming to this conversation as more of a researcher, someone who works with the data, not as an implementer. So I'll just share thoughts. They may be valid or they may not be valid, but we have the sector experts here to validate. You ask if we should celebrate. I think for sure, yes, we should have celebration of this, because this is the foundation. Access is the foundation. We can only speak about beyond because the foundation is laid. And fairly speaking, when you double from 48 to 96, it's not something light. I would say that this huge change is among the biggest strides in all social well-being indicators. You can compare access as well as access to clean water, as well as access to electricity. When you see changes that have happened over the last 16 years, inclusion is definitely one of the biggest. So yes, celebrate. Now, what next? But maybe you say, what would it mean? I think beyond means that you want all those now who are included, meaning they have an account, you want them to use that account, use multiple services, because multiple services are relevant to the well-being of people. Use them conveniently and also affordable. So convenience, affordability, multiplicity, that's what you want. That's the beyond. So for example, you want the average Rwandan to be able to easily move money around. You want them to do saving. You want them to access credit. You want them to access insurance cheaper, because if it's cheaper, it will be more convenient. Money will move through the economy faster, and it brings economic benefits. That's the beyond. So with the numbers we've seen, yes, there's quite a number of areas where we need to move beyond. Let's speak on credit. Clearly, we could see that it's only a 2% change in access to credit. If we pick on two cases, SACCOs, banks, we see that SACCOs, the account holders of SACCOs right now in Rwanda, it's only about 5% individual account holders who have credit. It's about 5%, less than 10%. Is it the desirable number? Maybe with now the automation, it will be much easier to serve these clients and credit to this big milestone on. Well, when you look at banks, yes, it's about 38% of account holders having credit, which is good. And I was seated with the CEO, Haddington, and when he looked at the numbers and saw no change in terms of inclusion of the banks, he was wondering. But I told him, we see in banks that account holders might be increasing, but in FinScope we are measuring one having an account. It doesn't matter if there are many accounts. So for example, I have 4 accounts. Now, I might have opened in so many banks. So the same users are opening accounts, but when we say unique, that's what the FinScope is showing. So the beauty is with the people that are now in the informal, in the other formal, mainly Momo, that creates an opportunity for banks to tap into that. So the 7.5 million, I would say a half of those are potential clients for banks as well, because now they are coming into the ecosystem. So they can actually be reached now. So yes, credit, there's still more to be done. We need to see more insurance. The case has been made. Microinsurance is feasible. That's why we've seen that tremendous change. So more of that is probably where we need to look at. Savings, people were doubtful of Ejoheza, but we can see that actually even the poor, the average, can save for the future. So it's a question of bringing the initiatives, and those initiatives being convenient and affordable, then they will be adopted. So 4 things that I think, in short, to get there, to get to that. For me, when I talk of convenience and affordability, the interoperability of our financial system. Great, huge milestone so far, bank to MTN or Airtel, but I think we need to get to that point where all players are interconnected, because then you will see scale, you will see reduced costs, and increased flow of money. And with that, it provides a bigger pool, a bigger cake for clients to serve. So that's really where we have to get to. And already RSwitch is doing work, but the embracement of that initiatives by all players, banks, MNOs, the government as well, supporting that initiative. It's a public utility. for the beginning. And so if we see it that way, that would mean a lot. Two, I would say mobilize more money into the ecosystem. Because when you are talking about lending, you need more money. Where would that money come from? Domestically, initiatives, education to raise more money into the system, but also from outside, remittances. We talked about remittances. Sometimes we underestimate the potential of remittances. So how do you make it less costly for Rwandans out of the country to send money? And that money comes. But also the likes of other initiatives like Kigali Finance Center and the others. All those, I think, are what we need to support and continue enhancing for more money to come into the flow. Third, we need data analytics. I think interesting that we see these findings, but John told us that there are more thematic reports to come. Beyond the survey, the data we collect in banks, in financial institutions, how people, when we talk of innovation, developing products, it really has to be informed by data analytics. So this idea of financial institutions investing in that capability, maybe for some, through the associations, maybe for microfinance. When you think of a microfinance having capable people, maybe they are meal, maybe the likes of a meal should do that function. They do the analytics that serve all, and then they compete on other things. So that analytics will inform the innovation, but also partnerships with fintechs and the likes. Lastly, to speak of partnerships, innovation through fintechs is definitely going to be a contributor going forward. We won't be surprised in the next 4 years if the drive for usage is around innovation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. Those are very strong points, Ivan. I'll pick up a few of those. I won't mention them all. Partnership is very important. Data analytics for us to be able to introduce a variety of services and products to our citizens. That's very important. And these are very key points, I think, our stakeholders in the room, those joining us online, and those that are going to read the report and consume it more are going to be taking away. To you, MD Patience, we've seen the numbers, but when you look at the 2% increase in the banking sector uptake, it's good, but not very good. Would you kindly speak into the root causes and what can be done to really see these numbers increase? Because we believe that it's in the banking sector that you have a variety of services and products that should be able to include broadly our citizens, that we know that a big percentage is thinly included. And we speak thinly, meaning that you have an account with Chimina, anytime that person should be able to drop off if we don't provide them with, improved products and services. What can we do on this? Thank you.
Thank you, Herbert, Honorable Minister, Governor, Excellencies, leaders. Good morning. I've been given a big task to represent a sector that doesn't look very good in the numbers. We've seen, when you translate the numbers, it just shows that I think it was 1.8 million people that have accounts in Rwanda, people and businesses, etc., that have accounts, but only 10% of the adult population that is borrowing. So that translates to about 825,000 borrowers across the formal sector, so to speak. So it's not an easy task, and Herbert was very kind to say it's good, but also not very good. I think I would speak for the sector to say that I think we can do a lot more. When you look at the root causes of why credit uptake is still low, I think we need to look at both the demand side root causes and the supply side root causes. if you're talking about credit, you need to have people who want credit. And I looked at the reasons why the credit uptake is quite low. I know most people in the room will be thinking interest rate. Surprisingly, this is not what people are telling us. What they're telling us about why they're not borrowing is, number one, they don't feel like there's a need to borrow. Number two, there is fear about their ability to repay the loans. And then number three, there's the security aspect. So I think that really speaks on the demand side for credit. But on the supply side as well, I think there's a number of root causes that probably would speak more on the supply side. I believe that as a sector, we need to do a lot more on awareness, particularly speaking to the second point around the need for borrowing, but also the ability to repay. And I know that when you look at the informal and the non-bank formal sector, there's a lot of awareness that has been done by the players, say, in the mobile money sector. Can we say we've done the same in the banking sector around mobilization of, the need for people to borrow, but also awareness on the banking products that we have available? There's a lot more that we can do on that side, on awareness. Number two is also on the innovation side. I think we can do a lot more to design products that speak to the needs of people. If someone thinks that they don't need credit, the truth is that when they have a need for credit, it's just that they're not looking at the banks as their first source of money. They will go to their relatives. I know in the report they were also saying that they will cut down on their expenditure. I think that's a gap on our side. We need to be able to develop products that are going to speak to the specific needs of the people that we are serving. And one thing that really stood out for me as John was doing the presentation was on the farmers' access. I think we had 18% of farmers that are accessing banking products. If we're saying this economy has 80% of our people employed in the farming sector, but only 18% of them accessing banking products, there's a big gap there. And I think a lot of it speaks to how well we've done in developing products for that particular sector. So product development, you could look at, women in finance, or women in business, you could look at youth, you could look at, production and expenditure, all these things we've not been able to really develop products that meet those specific needs. I think there's also more that needs to be done around partnerships, because the truth is that for the financial sector, our model is quite expensive for us to go deep into the villages. And I say this representing also a bank that has the widest network in the country. We find that more and more as borrowers and as customers are going towards the non-bank formal structures, it becomes more expensive for us to maintain branches in areas where there's no transaction volumes. And so you're faced with a decision on whether to maintain that branch network or to replace it with a more cost-effective model, which in our case is agency banking. So I think that the point there was on access. In terms of access and partnerships, it was actually on partnerships. The point on partnerships is we need to be able to get into partnerships with fintechs, and I think fintechs is also quite broad. Beyond the paytechs, also looking at lendtechs that can partner with us to go into the rural areas and help people that would normally be excluded to access our banking products. So I would say probably those three areas would be a key focus area for me: product development, awareness, and partnerships.
Thank you very much, Patience. We really appreciate that commitment. Indeed, we want to see more awareness of the products that you have. We want to see more innovation, products that are tailored, that are centric to the needs of our people. I'll jump and go straight to Jean-Claude Gaga before I come to you, Bahizi. The report indeed shows that the biggest contributor to the achievement today is mobile financial services. 62% in 2020, and today we are looking at 86%. What an achievement. But what has been the trigger? In answering this, I would appreciate if you speak about, go an extra mile and tell us what more you think the mobile financial services can offer. More than push and pull, cash in, cash out. What more can we see with MFS? Thank you.
Thank you, Herbert. Good morning. All protocol observed. I'm not going to speak entirely on the successes of mobile finance. We are still talking 22% on the banks, but I just want to be a bit more modest to say most of these achievements that we've seen have been as a result of collaboration with the banks. As much as you remained flat, at least you still had about 200, from 1.6 to 1.8 in terms of absolute numbers on the banking side. But what really happened and what triggered all this, considering that this is a report we are viewing after COVID-19, is that right on the mid of COVID, I think it was 2021, around August, one major directive came out that most of us in the financial sector know about, as a directive from the central bank, whereby I will skip one that probably for the audience doesn't really need to know about, but one that really spoke specifically to the consumer side was that they zero-rated how we were able to do business with the banks. So a wallet user or a bank account owner would be able to move funds from their wallet to their bank account at no extra fee, at no cost. So that came strongly around the time when we were looking at health measures to ensure that all payments are made digitally. And the central bank, again, was at the forefront of this, just to ensure that we avoid the risk of transmitting by use of cash for payments. So we saw a tremendous growth, exponential actually, on the mobile side of payments, which is merchant payments for goods and services. And along the same side, on the e-commerce side, we saw probably, if not 86, it's about slightly above 100 e-commerce businesses that immediately mushroomed as a result of the ease of payments and the need that was there for people to, have services delivered to their doorsteps. So these two things, the need that was there, the directive that was there, but of course the obvious fact that the situation we were in kind of opened up the opportunities and the need for one to have the ease of access to the account any time of the day or night. I think for us, on the MNO side now, speaking specifically, we enjoy the privilege of giving that ease of access anytime somebody needs to have they use their money. And when you look at it, there are several other factors that do support it. When you look at financial services, we are not only looking at paying for goods and services or making transfers. You're also looking at buying airtime. We're looking at renewing your bundle when it runs out. You're looking at paying for your water bills, which we are all able to do from the flexibility of a mobile phone. All these kind of contribute to what we're seeing as usage that probably our peers on the banking side may not have that kind of privilege. I know there's a lot of innovation most of the banks have done, where by USSD you can still get some of these services. But again, the fact that I'm able to remember 182 every other time I want to dial to make a payment, to buy airtime, to pay for goods and services, or make a remittance is what is giving us that privilege. Beyond that, I think it's what Ivan spoke to, and I think Deputy Governor also mentioned it, around partnerships and interoperability. From around 2022, we've seen, which is actually what we're looking at the numbers, we've had between 2020 and 2024, about 2 million new account holders, new mobile wallet account holders, compared to the 200K that I mentioned on the banking side. So what this only means is that with this partnership around interoperability, we saw the space opening up. Between ourselves, we launched this in 2022, around end of May, 26th May to be precise. And I remember the first 3 months between myself and my colleague Chantal in the audience, we were exchanging less than 100 million monthly in terms of value of transfer. Today, it is still not where we wish it to be, but you could add 3 more zeros to that. And so we are talking over almost about 1.5 billion that is coming from my side to Momo, and almost the same amount coming from Momo to Airtel. So this is just on the mobile side. From September last year, we saw the banks also coming on board. We've got almost every other bank connected right now on our switch, but we've seen a couple of them now being able to use that route of the switch to open up this space. So what we've been struggling with, which I really appreciate the support that the central bank has really come in with, is to open up the space and make it even and a level playing field for all of us. If I want to move funds from my bank to a wallet, or from my wallet to any other bank or any other wallet, there shouldn't be any limitations. And so we've come to an agreement that effective, I think, end of this month, whether you know it or not, I'm sorry to preempt this, but you'll be able to move funds from my account to Herbert, irrespective of whether Herbert is in whichever bank. So it will be so seamless that I will not have to memorize your number, your bank account, or ask you to agree to certain terms and conditions. It will just be that seamless. What this means is that it's going to open up this space more. We've seen all the circles now coming on board, another form of partnerships. Having all these 416 branches interacting with all of us, these are probably over 2 million other accounts that are coming on board. We are definitely going to see a bit more of it. So on the mobile side, yes, we have the privilege of ease of access, but we are also cognizant of the support we are getting from our peers in the bank that are opening up the space. If somebody wants to do a borrowing and lending a product, we are partnering with the banks to be able to do this. If I have to make, to service our agents, again, another area that I need to compliment the banks. Today, our agents are able to walk into some of the top banks here, any branch, anywhere in the country, and exchange their float for cash or cash for float at no fee. So this opening up of space, encouraging co-opetition, as we normally call it, or instead of competition and say there's a bit more cooperation, we are seeing this space opening up more. And at the end of it all, the ultimate beneficiary is, of course, the consumer.
Thank you very much, Gaga. What I hear out of this is that you have done a lot of awareness, you've done a lot of innovations that you've pushed out there, but we all love convenience, and we will join and use mobile financial services for that. But also you spoke about the fact that you're going to continue the partnerships and engagement with all the space, everyone in the space, for you to be able to even deliver more. That's very profound and very important. To you, Managing Director Alex Wahizi, we celebrate a 10% increase from 17% 2020 to 27% 2024. We really appreciate the efforts of the insurance sector, and we want to really thank the partners in the room, Ministry of Agriculture and everyone else that has been pushing agriculture insurance and other types of insurance that really our citizens need. But I also draw your attention to a statement that was profound to me, made by Her Excellency, the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley. If you could put it up, AV team. Thank you very much. She made a profound statement that what is not insurable is not investable. To me, this was very profound. Speaking about the government assets, my mother with 1 hectare of land that is going to, put $1 million and want to produce something out of it. What do you think as the insurance sector, looking at your achievement, but also looking at that statement, what does this speak to us, the policymakers, to the citizens, and to everyone that is still shying away from the insurance sector and your products? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Herbert. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'm happy for the growth of the financial inclusion from 17 to 27% on the side of insurance. I'm so happy. It's a modest growth, of course. We would want to have more, even 80, 90%. But this is an indication that it is doable and possible. We redouble our efforts as a sector. And of course, the role of stakeholders in this is paramount. We've seen the participation of the National Bank of Rwanda. We've seen the role of access to finance. And we've seen overall the role of the government of Rwanda in pushing the development of the insurance sector. So I'm happy for the growth, 10% over a period of 4 years. It gives us a backbone. Possibly the next FinScope should find us at 70 or 80% in the next 4 years. So coming back to your statement, I think that Prime Minister is an insurer. 100% I agree. What is not insurable is not investable. 100%. Any investor across the world, before they invest, even here, they will look at the assurance of their investments. They look at certainty, future certainty for their cost of investments. They look at security of their investments. They look at risk mitigation approaches for their investments, of course. And they will look at a scenario that gives them protection in case anything happens. So the scan, of course, investors look at a number of factors before they invest. Insurance is key in what they assess. But for them to get that level of assurance, to get that level of future certainty, and that level of protection in case something happens, even the insurance sector itself has to be ticking a number of conditions. Insurance companies have to be sound, have to be stable, they have to be well capitalized, they have to be sustainable. It's not a matter of having insurance sector in place that guarantees certainty and assurance to investors. We have to be strong, we have to be viable, we have to look into the future, we have to show strength such that investors have that level of assurance that if they're investing their money in different sectors of the economy, in case anything happens, we have the ability and adequacy of our capitals to come and compensate for their assets. Now, making it practical, let's bring it from the book to practice. Insurance is common life for public and private, and even individuals. But let's start with public, even the government. This beautiful facility we are in, the convention center, I'm sure if anybody made an announcement now that we have no insurance cover for this building, I'm sure some of us would run away from this facility very quickly. So insurance is supposed to make sure that, first of all, the cost of investment doesn't become so high. I'm sure this will sound different from people who are here and following us. I know insurance is a cost, but it is a cost that saves you from unpredictable massive costs in the future. If there was no insurance cover for the contractor who built this house, probably they would have charged the government double the cost of construction because they wanted to have a buffer fund in case anything happened along the period of construction. But even now, when the facility is complete, if you ruled out the cover of insurance, possibly you would need the reserve fund put aside equivalent to the value of this facility, such that in case anything happens to the facility, you have a reserve fund to put up the facility again. So we agree insurance is a cost, but it is a cost that saves investors from future massive and unpredictable costs. That is but we are talking about one facility. Look at all amazing facilities that we have in this country: construction of roads, infrastructure that you see, the National Stadium, the arena, everything that you see that are iconic in this economy. If they had no insurance cover, then they would be vulnerable to any shocks. Now, if you go to private individuals, investors, if you want to put up a factory or anything, you will still assess what I just explained. Are you assured of the cost of investment? Is it certain if you invest in a given sector? Of course, we are even in an age where we can even give you an insurance cover for expected returns if you want so. Some years ago, we only covered a number of sectors and we did not touch into expected returns, production, and revenue. Now we can, of course, at a handsome size of premium. But we can give you extended covers from the idea to execution, to expected production and revenue. Anything can be covered now by insurance these days. So, totally agree. Whether you want to look at it from public perspective, from private, even individuals. You talked of our brothers and sisters who are in their farmland now. If you go to grow your maize, your rice, everything, you must be assured that in case of prolonged drought, you will be compensated. In case of heavy rains and your crops do not turn out the way you want it to be, you are compensated by insurance covers. I'm so glad that the government introduced the National Agriculture Insurance Scheme that is subsidized up to 40% of the size of premium. And you've seen the impact. It's practical and it's evident. You've seen how it has driven the insurance inclusion from 10 to 17%. Of course, it's not the only factor. There are other initiatives across the sector that we have implemented and we continue to implement. But it has played a very significant role in proliferating the insurance inclusion across the informal sector. So I agree with the Prime Minister. What is not insurable is not investable. Take it from me as an insurer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. With that, allow me, in the interest of time, to allow you to give your parting shot as we conclude this discussion, starting with you.
Thank you, Herbert. And I was listening to the professionals on where they see areas of growth. And I think that the question we've been having since 2020 as central banks is whether we should still consider financial inclusion as part of our mandate. The reason being that since 2022, our main goal was to really make sure that inflation goes down, the price stability mandate. Secondly, that the aftermath of COVID doesn't have negative impacts on our financial sector. So clearly, there could have been a tendency to say financial inclusion, we put it on the side and we concentrate on the two mandates that we have. But I'm really glad that as National Bank of Rwanda, we were deliberate to make sure that financial inclusion is always at the center of policies that we do. And as a matter of fact, even internationally, we've been selected among 5 banks that are now conducting research on the complementarity between monetary policy, financial stability, and financial inclusion. So my parting shot is that regardless of the geopolitical and macroeconomics, I would say, crisis that we see more and more, you have to be deliberate to put financial inclusion at the center of what you do as a central bank of a developing country. And I'm glad that now even the numbers are showing that we were right to do that way. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. Over to Director General Ivan.
Thank you, Herbert. The financial sector is definitely a key part of growth for the economy by increasing access and use of money. The more money flows across economic agents, the more added value and growth. And so I think in the next FinScope, our focus of measurement is going to be on usage. We'll quickly move away from the inclusion and now focus on usage. And for usage to happen, affordability, convenience are going to be key parameters. And as we've heard from the actors, the will is there, the initiatives have already started. I think if all that is put together for the key agents to see the end goal and be mindful of how they make it affordable, more affordable, especially for the lower segments of the population, the end return is huge. And so we look forward to that. Thank you.
Over to you, Patience.
Thank you, Herbert. I think I would build up from where Ivan stopped around affordability and access. And for us in the financial sector, I think the way for us to do it is digitize. Digitalization is not something that we can avoid. We will continue. I guess I would be speaking on behalf of the financial sector to say, or banks specifically, to say that we're committed in this journey of increasing financial inclusion, and we're going to do that by increasing access, and access will only be increased if we look at more affordable options. So digitization is really, really important. How do we make it easy for potential users of our services to bring their value into the banking sector, store their value, make payments, access credit? That's through digitization. I think we're going to also do a lot more around awareness on the products and services that we are offering. We need to, and we must, build and innovate products and services that are going to speak to the sectors that we see are currently excluded, specifically the agriculture sector. It's very clear that a lot more needs to be done there. I think there's a lot of work for us to do around bringing in more women. We saw the 10% exclusion or gender gap between men and women on accessing banking products. So those are areas that we're going to focus on. We'll also focus on how do we bring in youth earlier into benefiting from our banking services. So from a very young age, I think we need to play a role around sensitizing the young people on financial inclusions and products and services that are available for them to access financial products, but also looking at how we can, within the regulatory environment, opt for more affordable banking options so that our services can also reach the unbanked. Thank you.
Thank you, Patience. Managing Director Alex Bahizi.
Thank you. I thought you would jump me again.
No. I'm not going to do that. I saved you for...
Fine, thank you. Not different from what my colleague Patience mentioned. Digitalization is a must now. It's no longer an option. We have to follow the footsteps of our banking sector and ensure that insurance is conveniently given to our customers and prospective customers. But we also, as a sector, want to double our efforts in giving micro-insurance covers. We have an ambition that in the future, even a corner shop in the village of Nyamasheke, Rusizi, and Ngoma will have an insurance cover. If you start a shop somewhere, you should have an insurance cover in case for your cost of establishing the shop is probably shocked by anything, even from what we are not used to today, like climate change, can be covered by an insurance. So we want our micro-insurance approaches across the sector to increase. And that is one way we can participate in financial inclusion across the financial services scope. But as an insurer, of course, we know we are a participant in making sure that financial inclusion increases, but also we are aware that it provides an opportunity for us to, we follow where money goes and where money is as insurance companies. So we look at it double-fold. We must participate to ensure that financial inclusion grows. But when it grows, what do we do as insurance companies? We take it as an opportunity to make sure that our products increase and our innovation increases, such that whatever is developing and increasing in the financial sector is given adequate insurable covers. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the commitment. Again, I'm reminded of this insurance product. It's a comedian insured his audience. So that's how far the insurance sector has gone. So I think as you go to that extra mile, we really indeed want to see those innovations there. Yes. Over to you, MD Gaga. What's your parting shot today?
Mine is what we normally hear, the 3 Ps. First P is partnership, the second P is partnership, and you can guess the third P. So we believe that the future belongs to those who will embrace partnerships. Of course, like I said in my earlier submission, we are standing on the shoulders of these giants that are the banks to be able to offer some of these services. I keep jokingly but seriously telling the bankers that I'm their foot soldier. We recruit for them people that eventually we graduate into formal banking, and we keep them on some other services. So looking at what partnerships have really brought up, I think I just want to encourage more partnerships with the regulator, partnerships with the other ecosystem players, just for us to be able to move from where we are to the next. So partnerships, and partnerships.
Thank you very much, Gaga. I think the parting shots, if I could summarize them to our audiences. One, we have commitments on awareness, more innovation, pushing for usage of more affordable financial products and services, pushing in more digital affordable services, but also building more partnerships. On the side of, as a person in charge of the financial sector, I think also our commitment is that we are going to work going forward together on pushing in a new financial inclusion strategy. It's finalized, a few numbers to tweak and push it for approval by the high authorities. We're also going to come to you with more financial education, but also we also want to build more partnerships that allow innovations into the market, and we are willing to support. And again, allow me to thank you, the audience that has been following this discussion, and those online, but most important, the partners of Access to Finance that allowed this survey to happen and us seeing these good results. With that, I submit, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Insightful discussions indeed. I'm sure the audience will have comments and thoughts. If we could please open the floor to the audience. Protocol team, please, let's have a microphone to each of the panelists in their seats so that we could share the speech, please. Any questions yet, or should I use my MC privilege to do the kickoff question? There's one already. Okay, before maybe they get the microphone. I think really the numbers, especially in terms of the banked population, were really outstanding, and truly CEO Patience has shedded a lot of light on it, and as well as CEO Gaga. But I would want to come back on the issue of collaboration and partnership. Are we looking at partnership and collaboration as something that we can harness locally within our institutions, leverage on the strength that already exists? Or we are looking at partnership into newness, innovation, new partners? Because when we look at how mobile money has driven financial inclusion, and we look at the ability of banks to really piggyback or support that with the strength and the muscle of the banking industry, I believe that actually the collaboration we look at is amongst ourselves. So if I could get just a quick comment from CEO Patience and CEO Gaga around what can we do to harness the successes we have in terms of mobile money, and probably to use the banking muscle to continue to promote that. CEO Patience, if you have the microphone, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. I was just wondering, do I stand, do I sit? But I guess the right thing to do is to stand.
It's okay, you can even remain seated. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. I think that's an interesting question, and my response would be that in terms of collaboration and partnerships, we need to look both inward and outward. A lot has been done in terms of the partnerships between banks, fintechs, and insurance companies as well, and a lot of the players in the financial sector. But beyond the players in the financial sector, I believe there's also opportunities in partnerships with NGOs, and I see a few partners sitting around the table, because the NGOs are also have a mandate of increasing jobs and job creation. And I believe that as we're talking about financial inclusion, the ultimate goal is not just including people, but also using that inclusion as an opportunity to create jobs. So within that partnership matrix, I would add beyond the ones that we're talking about, the NGOs and other international players.
Thank you very much. Can we get a quick comment from CEO Gaga as well? He's right over here. Maybe the speakers should keep their own microphones to ease the protocol's job.
Well, I thought partnership was quite a simple one to understand. But again, just want to echo what Patient just said here. When we say partnership, really, we are talking of playing to our strength. Whenever we're looking at the product, if it's something that would require a certain partnership, one, especially for us in the MNO, we are in the volumes business. The more volumes we have, the more velocity of these transactions, the more money we are able to make. But sometimes this comes at a certain cost. Again, if I borrow interoperability as an example here, or as a case to present here, before this, you'd imagine moving funds from your bank account to your wallet. This is your own bank, and this is your own wallet, and there was a fee. Of course, before the central bank came in with COVID directives. The ability now to be able to recognize your wallet and your bank, because you're going through an entity that is able to validate that this is Jean-Claude from Airtel Money, and this is Jean-Claude from Bank X. Then that way they're able to validate and say, clearly this would be a free transaction. Take it further. When we talk about the other use cases, today we are talking interoperability on transfers only, but we are looking at merchant payments, which hopefully will be the next discussion. And then, of course, much later, where my customers, sorry, I'm not owning them, but customers on Airtel Money will be able to cash out or cash in at an agent that was created and invested in by another entity, be it a bank or another MNO. So when you look at all this, if I'm to do it as two efforts, there will be a lot of investment required and time. We have to replicate the model every other time I go to someone else. But when you're talking of this partnership that comes through a central or kind of an interoperable point, it makes investment quite easy. It makes speed to the market much faster. It reduces replication of these projects and business models, and all of us are able to now step back and build more innovation around several other products. So for me, clearly that's what I meant to say, that partnerships is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much for shedding more light on the partnership issue. We had already questions in the room and comments, actually. We have one from a gentleman at the far end of the room. Over there.
Thank you. My name is Straton Habyarimana, and allow me to speak in Kinyarwanda. I know Ingrid will be a very good job in summarizing what I've said.
Yes.
So, twagiye tuvuga ku kintu gisanzwe cyo kuvuga ngo abantu ntabwo bari gukoresha inguzanyo ku bwinshi nk'uko byari byitezwe. Twaganire ku mpamvu nyinshi zagiye zibivuga zishobora kuba zibitera, na nyakubahwa Patience yazigarutseho, ariko ndashaka gutsindagira ikintu kimwe gikunze kuboneka iyo witegereje imibare y'ukuntu abanyarwanda bakoresha inguzanyo, usanga icyo bita average loan, inguzanyo y'impuzandengo mu Rwanda igenda yigira hirya igana hejuru cyane ku mamiliyoni. Kera muri za 2014 na 12 gutyo wasangaga average loan mu Rwanda yari hafi ku bihumbi nka 300-500. Ubu ngubu yubaze no mu bigo by'imari bito twita kari bito nk'umurenge sako, usanga inguzanyo iciriritse cyangwa impuzandengo y'inguzanyo batanga igeze nko kuri 1.5 miliyoni kurenza ndetse hejuru. Ngira ngo abantu muri banki nkuru baza kudufasha kubireba. Ngira ngo nyakubahwa Ivan yaje kuvuga ibintu bivuga bijyanye na analytics dukeneye. Iyo na impuzandengo igenda izamuka si ukubera ko abanyarwanda bose n'abato badakeneye inguzanyo, ahubwo bivuga yuko abakuru ari bagenda biharira inguzanyo kurushaho. Kimwe mu bibazo tugenda tuganira n'abantu bakatubwira nuko usanga ahantu hose inguzanyo wawe yaka yariyo yose bagusaba ingwate. Wabaza ibigo by'imari batese ko wenda inguzanyo ntoya bitari bikwiye ko twakwa ingwate, bakakubwira bati no, banki nkuru yaratubwiye ngo IFRS 9 inguzanyo zose zigomba kuba zifite garanti, utabikoze gutyo bawisha amategeko, utabikoze gutyo ugomba gutanga provision %100, ubwo rero zose tugomba kwaka inguzanyo. Niho haza muri bya bindi byo kuvuga ngo wa wundi uri gushaka amafaranga 500 byo kujya kugura ifumbire, wa wundi uri gushaka 300 byo kugura akamashini kamufasha wenda gutonora ibigori kubihungura, ayo mafaranga ntagashobora kuyabona no kubasha kuyakoresha. Igisubizo rero nkuko hari umuntu wavuze ati wenda dukeneye amafaranga kaza muri ecosystem ari menshi aturuka hanze. Niyo yaza ari hanze ari menshi tutariga uburyo ki n'abantu bashobora kubona inguzanyo nto bazibona kandi bakazibona bitabagoye, n'ubundi cya kibazo cya usage kizakomeza kibeho. Ikibazo nagira ngo nkibaze nyakubahwa Deputy Governor, ibi bintu barabitekereza babibona nk'ingorane, niba babibona nk'ingorane hari gukorwa iki kugira ngo icyo kibazo gikemuke? Murakoze.
Murakaze, I think the question can be answered in Kinyarwanda, and then Honorable Deputy Governor, if you permit, can we answer the question in Kinyarwanda and then I do a quick recap about everything.
Yes, yes, Ingrid, you can translate afterwards in English. So ku kibazo cya Straton nibyo ni kibazo kigaruka cyane kuvuga ngo ese hari inguzanyo abantu bashobora kubona badatanze ingwate. Nkatwe tureberera urwego rw'imari hari ibintu bibiri tugomba kureba. Icyambere ni ukureba niba uwo muntu wafashe inguzanyo azashobora kuyishyura. Niba twemeye yuko nta ngwate yatanze ntashobore kuyishyura, ni ukuvuga yuko tuba dushyira mu byago ababikije amafaranga yabo muri banki, kuko twebwe icyo tugomba kureba icyambere ni protection ya depositors. Abantu babitsa muri banki se igihe baje kubikuza bazashobora kubona ayo mafaranga. Ariko icyagiye kigaragara nuko hari ubundi buryo bushobora gushyirwaho, ni nayo mpamvu gukoresha amakuru cyangwa data nabyo ari ibintu turimo gukoraho. Nk'ubu hari project dufite yo kureba ese umuntu akoresheje amakuru, ufashe nk'umuntu ufite ubucuruzi butoya ukareba mu myaka 2-3 ishize ibyo yagurishije, akaba ari ibintu umuntu yashyira muri navuga platform, ku buryo ushobora gukora icyo twita credit scoring cyangwa kureba amahirwe afite yo kuba yishyura inguzanyo neza cyangwa yayisubiza. Ibyo bikaba ari amakuru yashobora gukoreshwa yizewe, hanyuma bikaba byanatuma banki zitanga inguzanyo zitagombye kwaka ingwate, ahubwo byagendeye kuri ayo makuru y'umuntu ugiye kwaka inguzanyo no kureba historical cyangwa se uko yagiye yishyura inguzanyo zisanzwe. Ubwo rero naho niho byagiye bigarukaho ko ubufatanye mu bigo bitandukanye ari ngombwa. Icyo kintu yabajetse se banki nkuru y'u Rwanda irabitekerezaho, turabitekerezaho n'uwo mushinga turimo gukorana na TransUnion aribo bareberera iyi CRB tuzi, byerekana ko n'amakuru nabo bafite ashobora gufasha banki kumenya neza amahirwe umuntu afite cyangwa se ububasha afite bwo kwishyura neza inguzanyo, utagiye gusa kureba yuko afite ingwate, ahubwo ari ukureba ko ari umuntu ufite income cyangwa se ufite umushahara cyangwa ikimwishiriza amafaranga, ugashobora kuba wamenya ko umuntu koko afite ubwo bushobozi udatanze ingwate. Turizera rero ko nko mu mezi 12 ari imbere tuzashobora kubona ko hari banki zirimo gutanga inguzanyo, ntabwo ari z'amafaranga menshi cyane kuko nabyo byashyira mu gihombi izo banki, ariko zikoresheje amakuru atari ingwate. Ndumva ari cyo navuga. Murakoze.
Thank you very much. I'll translate for the non-Kenya Rwanda speakers. So the question asked was around limited access to credit. And Mr. Straton asked, basically, the context of his question is, access to credit is still limited, but the average loan per individual keeps increasing, which could indicate that the wealthier are getting more credit. And he also linked this issue to availability of collateral as a requirement to access credit. And he asked whether, as a regulator, there is any plans to sort of support more the issuance of unsecured loans. And he had addressed the question to Deputy Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda. In her response, she clarified that as a regulator, the priority is to protect depositors' funds, basically by not exposing it to credit that would not be paid back, which is why ability to pay is a key component to any credit assessment and granting the credit. Hence, the necessity of collateral sometimes being really emphasized, because the ultimate aim is to protect the depositors' funds. But she also said that something is being done in terms of what other alternative data can be used to assess credit and not solely rely on collateral. And basically, in her response, she emphasized that the National Bank of Rwanda and TransUnion are in a partnership to look at more data, alternative data sources that can support granting of credit and credit assessment and risk assessment. I hope I did justice to the question and the answer. Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions in the room? Yes, please. We have two. I've seen one over there and one on table 5. Please avail microphones. If it's a question, it's very good to mention who you address it to. Not more than 2 speakers would be good.
Thank you very much. My name is Paul Mbonyi, and I work with Rwanda Consumers' Rights Protection Organization at the core. Kubera ko abo mvugira abenshi bumva ikinyarwanda, ndavuga mu kinyarwanda kuko ndavuga ubutumwa bwabo, ubutumwa bw'abakiriya, consumers. Cyambere turashimira ibyagezweho n'urwego tugezeho mu iterambere ry'urwego rw'imari mu Rwanda, ariko kuko tuvuga kuri financial inclusion, ngira ngo twese twakumva principe ivuga ngo no one behind, nta n'umwe ukwiye gusigara inyuma. Kugira ngo rero tubigereho hari byinshi bikwiye gukorwa, ubwo cyane cyane ndabwira inzego zishinzwe ubugenzuzi nka beneri zishinzwe gushyiraho politiki nka ministeri, ndetse n'abatanga serivisi, ibigo by'imari n'amabanki ndetse n'ibigo by'ubwishingizi. Icyambere, abanyarwanda benshi batuye mu cyaro, ariko twese niduterera amaso abavuka mu cyaro nibura, murebe mu midugudu n'utugari twanyu, utugari turimo ibigo by'imari nitungahe, turasanga amabanki yose, ibigo by'ubwishingizi byasanze abanyamafaranga agaragara ko ari menshi mu mufuka, ariko amafaranga ya benshi nubwo ari make mu mufuka ya buri wese niyo menshi. Ibyo byagaragajwe n'amafaranga agaragara muri za sako zegereye abaturage. Bisobanuye rero ngo ikintu cyitwa the equitable distribution of services providers and facilities ni ikintu gikwiye gutekerezwaho. Umuntu ajya kubikuza amafaranga bamuhaye muri VUP bamuhembye, kubera ko sako iri kure agatega moto y'ibihumbi 10 agiye gufata ibihumbi 20 ari bukora iki na ya saving arayabikuriza rimwe avanemo bya bihumbi 8 bya moto ubwo nyine azongera kugaruka yafashe VUP nyamara iyo biza kuba biri hafi yari kugenda agafata yakeneye ejo akagaruka bityo akanongera gukoresha n'ikigo cy'imari. Ikintu rero kijyanye no kwegereza abaturage service inzego zibishinzwe zareba icyo zibikoraho. Ikindi kijyanye kuri insurance ubwishingizi ni byiza leta yacu irakora byiza ariko hari exclusion mu bwishingizi bwo mu buhinzi iteye ite ibihingwa byose nibura iby'ingenzi ntibyishingirwa amatungo yose ntiyishingirwa none se abanyarwanda boroye inka zitanga umukamo ni bangaye ariko ushize ubwishingizi ku ihene n'intama inkoko n'ibindi uzazamura umubare w'abakoresha bwa bwishingizi bivuze ngo birakwiye kongera scope y'ibyishingirwa muri urwo rwego ubwo ni ikijyanye na insurance products zikwiye gutekerezwa zigahuzwa n'ubushobozi bw'abanyarwanda benshi. Ikindi navuga ni ikintu kijyanye amabanki aravuga kuki amakonti asinzira ngira ngo ni ikibazo gikwiye gusubizwa n'amabanki n'ibigo by'imari byaba ibiciriritse n'ibindi. Umuntu konte kenshi na kenshi sinzira kubera ko atabonye service nziza kube ikintu cyitwa gukemura ibibazo by'abakiriya barakubwira ngo wibagiwe umubare w'ibanga nujya kugira ngo wongere baguhindurire amafaranga arenze ibihumbi 5 barakubwira ngo jya kwegera ishami rya MTN rya Airtel riri hafi umwagenti ntabikore hari ibyo bakora aho mperutse kujya bavuze ko bagarukira ku bihumbi 5 ukareba konti yawe iriho ibihumbi ya mobile money iriho ibihumbi 10 ese uyibutege uri hehe ngo kugira ngo wongere baactive ijambo ry'ibanga. Ikintu kijyanye ngira ngo akwiye kuba flexibility ibintu bya rigidité kuremereza ibintu muri gutanga service bikaba byako. Ikintu kijyanye na complaint resolution mechanism inzego zibishinzwe zikwiye kugitekerezaho zigakorwa mu buryo zorohereza kandi ntihagire izindi cost ziyongera kugira ngo ukemurirwe ikibazo. Urwo rugendo ukora ibyo byose amafaranga uri burire bituma abantu basa naho bacika gukoresha service z'imari. Ikindi ni inshingano abatanga service bafite inshingano ikomeye y'uburenganzira bw'umuguzi kwigisha. Ubonye imbaraga ibigo by'imari n'iby'ubwishingizi bishyira mu gushaka abakiriya twibaza ikibura ngo izo mbaraga bazikomeze mu kugumana abakiriya. Ndatanga urugero ku muntu wishingiye mu bwishingizi iyo bagushaka baraza bakaza hasi hariya ariko iyo wagize ibyago ugomba kwishyuza wagize impanuka ugomba mu bitaro ni ukubera iki umuntu agomba kwishyura ibitaro ngo insurance company ikatazamwishyurira? Ese aba yarishingiye yarabitse n'amafaranga yo kwishyura igihe azaba yahuye n'impanuka? Kubera iki insurance company dakorana n'ibitaro nkuko RSS bikorana n'ibitaro bakabaha facture bakishyura? Kuki ngo nishyure muzansubize? Ibyo bintu biri fair? Murumva mwebwe ari byo? Ni ikibazo gikomeye rero. Ubwo se umuntu wahuye n'icyo kibazo izo ngendo urumva azagaruka? Ngarutse ku kinguzanyo twibaza impamvu n'ubu twese aha twicaye muri banki twese nge ndi muri byinshi ibimina ko dusobanukiwe n'ibya banki ariko kuki twongera uruhande tukajya mu bimina? Nuko ibimina bifite ikintu cyiza cyo korohereza abakiriya cyane ku nguzanyo kandi bikorana neza mu bwizerane usanga nta kibazo nta bantu bambura ibimina. Uyu munsi hari ibimina bitanga inguzanyo irenze za miliyoni mwahoze mu. Nukubera iki? Nuko boroshya abantu baraziranye habaho ubwishingizi magirirane ibyo ni umuco mwiza ariko wajya gusaba inguzanyo mu kigo cy'imari runaka hazamo ibintu byinshi cyane amananiza nibyo strato yavuze. Rero bikwiye gutekerezwa wenda kugira ngo nafate umwanya munini reka wenda nsoreze ku kijyanye no gukoresha ikoranabuhanga. Nacyabaguzi baracyafitemo ibibazo cyane cyane hari byinshi bikorwa na politike nziza zo kurwanya ubujura n'amanyanga mu ikoreshwa rya service z'imari mu ikoranabuhanga ariko kugeza uyu munsi ngira ngo hakwiye gushyirwaho izindi ngamba zo gukumira kuruta iteka ahubwo duhora dusubiza ibibazo zo gukumira ubujura na fraude hakwiye izindi mbaraga. Ikindi mu ikoreshwa rya ikoranabuhanga, kubera iki iyo mbikuje ibihumbi 200 nkoresheje ikarita ntanga 200, 300 biterwa na banki yariyo. Nibaza impamvu nohereza ibihumbi 180 nyoherereje mugenzi wanjye cyangwa ngiye kwishyura nkishyura 1500. Ikintu kijyanye na transaction mu mafaranga, ibiciro biri hejuru bituma n'abantu njewe najya gukora transaction ya 5 miliyoni gute, mwebwe muranyishyuza mushingiye kuri za 5 miliyoni, nzemera nkodeshe taxi voiture nyashira uwo nendaga koherereza. Kubera iki kwishyura transaction bidashingira kuri operation, bigashingira kuri amount, ungano y'amafaranga? Birasobanutse aho ibyuma ibihumbi 200 binyuramo, ntabwo ariho 5 miliyoni zinyura. Murakoze cyane, harimo ibibazo bya bikosotse kandi twizeye ko muzadufasha gukemura ibibazo. Murakoze cyane.
Murakoze cyane. That's really great consumer perspective. Good enough. I know that many of the initiatives to address the questions or the comments you've just made exist. It's just more of progress and a journey to walk. You didn't mention who you asked your questions to, but I still think that, do you want to mention or do you want me to? I think most of them were, the National Bank of Rwanda could have a say, especially that it's on consumer protection, it's on...
I think question related to regulation, I think the National Bank will talk about, and about service provision, I think the financial institution representative will talk about, and also the insurance companies will talk about why should I pay when I had an accident and then they reimburse after. Why do not cooperate with hospitals or
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Honorable Deputy Governor to make a comment, and then probably, first to Deputy Governor.
Thank you, Ingrid. Murakoze ku bibazo mwabajije ku byerekeranye na consumer protection cyangwa se kurengera umuguzi wa serivisi z'imari. Iyo icyo kibazo kiba cyaje mu myaka inishize, ntago twari kuba dufite ibisubizo kuko icyo gihe nta tegeko rirengera umuguzi wa serivisi z'imari zari zihari. Iryo tegeko ryatowe mu 2021 ari naho nibyo wenda progress ntigaragara cyangwa ntabwo iraba nini, ariko navuga nk'ibintu bitatu byakozwe kandi bikomeza gukorwa. Icya mbere ni ukwigisha koko abakoresha serivisi z'imari inshingano zabo, ariko na rights bafite cyangwa se ibyo ibigo by'imari bibagomba, nabo bakumva ko iryo tegeko ribarengera. Aho rero hari ibintu byinshi byakozwe byaba na Banki Nkuru y'u Rwanda BNR, ariko n'ibigo by'imari, kuko nabyo itegeko ribasaba ko bashyiraho ibigenwa kugira ngo umuntu yumve serivisi agiye gufata, zikaba bamuhaye amakuru yose. Ikindi cyakozwe nuko muri buri karere ubu hari abo twita consumer protection ambassadors, abantu bahuguwe na Banki Nkuru y'u Rwanda kuri iryo tegeko n'ukurengera inyungu z'ukoresha serivisi z'imari, kugira ngo nabo bakomeze bahugure bagenzi babo, aho kugira ngo umuntu yumve ko agomba kuza kuri Banki Nkuru y'u Rwanda cyangwa se mu mabanki kugira ngo yumve uko ikibazo cye cyakemuka. Icya kabiri ni uko twashyizeho platform yitwa Intumwa chatbot, ituma abantu bashobora kohereza ubutumwa kuri telefone, ubutumwa bugufi kuri telefone, gukoresha internet, batwereka ikibazo bafitanye n'ikigo cy'imari. Icyo kigo cy'imari nacyo gihita kibona icyo kibazo, nabo bakaba bagisubiza, cyangwa se twabona ko igisubizo kidashimishije, natwe nka Banki Nkuru y'u Rwanda tukagikurikirana kandi tubona ko abantu babyitabiriye. ikindi navuga nuko mu byagiye bigaragazwa nk'ibibazo by'uko hari nk'abantu bagomba bafite umurenge sako cyangwa banki zitabegereye, ariko kuba nanone dufite izi serivisi za mobile money cyangwa gukoresha ikoranabuhanga mu kwishyurana, nabyo bigaragara n'imibare yabyerekanye ko abantu batagomba kujya gusa kuri ayo mabanki cyangwa kuri izo sako, ahubwo hari n'ababona amafaranga bakoresheje izo telefone. Ntago navuga wenda ko ibyo bibazo byose byakemutse, ariko biragaragara neza mu mibare ko no kuba hari mobile money zunganira izo banki bituma umuturage wese ashobora kugerwaho na serivisi z'imari. Urugendo ruracyari rurerure, ariko nanone ntago twakwirengagiza ibimaze kugerwaho mu kugeza abanyarwanda bose kuri serivisi z'imari. Murakoze.
Thank you. Just to make a small translation on the consumer protection issue, and then we could have CEO Patience talk about the cost of transactions, if you may, please. Yes? Okay, thank you. And then finally, the insurance sector, to make a quick comment. So on the issue of consumer protection, actually the question was from ADECOR, which is the body that ensures consumer rights in the market. And he touched on many issues on one, proximity of financial services. Actually, in the previous FinScope reports, the issue of proximity is studied, and we noticed that over time, proximity of financial services to people has kept increasing, decreasing, so people use less time to access financial services. The new numbers should be available in the FinScope. But also technology, as Deputy Governor referred to, continues to ease access to financial services. In terms of consumer protection, your question around complaint resolution, Deputy Governor has mentioned the National Bank of Rwanda Financial Consumer Protection Law that is there since 2021 and has made several strides. And part of the implementation, there is a consumer handling mechanism that enables users of financial services to log in their issues either by SMS or internet, so that one, their financial service providers can resolve the issue timely, but when that doesn't happen, there is also an automatic escalation methodology. So consumer complaints are really, there is an initiation on how the complaints could be handled real time. And in terms of technology, Deputy Governor also emphasized how technology is easing access to financial services. So when we look at access, it's not just because there's a physical branch in proximity, but it's also because technology can ease access to financial services. In terms of the consumer protection aspect, which was the bulk of your question, I think it's answered. If CEO Patience could just make a quick comment on the cost of financial service, and then we also hear from the insurance sector to close on this.
Thank you, Ingrid. Once again, I'm going to take it for the banking sector. Take the bullet for everybody. Ikibazo mwabajije ni ikibazo gikomeye cyane. Kubera buri munsi tuba tugerageza kureba ikintu cyadufasha kugira ngo tugeze ku abakiriya bacu amaserivisi anoze kandi aciriritse ahendutse. Thank you. Uburyo twabikora rero ntabwo twibaza ko ari ukugumana ama physical branches cyangwa icyo bita mu Cyongereza brick and mortar. Technology yaraje, ikoranabuhanga ryaraje kugira ngo ridufashe mu gukemura icyo kibazo. Iyo urebye branch network y'amabanki menshi ukagereranya na agency network, turabona ko agency network idufasha gushikiriza abakiriya bacu amaserivisi mu buryo bworoshye kandi bunahendutse. So agency banking ni model turimo kugerageza kuembedingamo, turimo kugerageza gushyira mu bikorwa kugira ngo dusange abatugana. Icya kabiri ni ikoranabuhanga mu buryo bwa USSD. Mfashe example ya USSD, umuntu niba ashobora gufungura konti akoresheje USSD code, akohereza amafaranga akanayakira kuri USSD code, agasaba inguzanyo akoresheje USSD code, twibaza ko twaba tubonye alternative nziza ugereranyije na banking physical branches. So I think really switching to English, technology is one of the ways that is going to help us to improve the cost of doing business as the banking sector. And we're on a daily we're daily trying to find solutions around this cost of business. And to be honest with you, when we look back the past 2 or 3 years, a lot of the costs that we have been incurring and charging to our customers have reduced significantly. Be it account opening, we don't have any limits on account opening. Transfer charges have been reduced significantly, both for local transfers and international transfers. Cost of credit has remained stagnant. On average, the interest rates have remained at about 16 to 16.5% on average across the market. So we believe that we're doing a fairly good job in managing our cost of passing on, services to our customers. But the feedback that we are receiving from the consumers is very important, and we're daily looking for ways to improve. Thank you.
Very shortly, we are going to be joined by our guest of honor. If we could have just a 1 minute or 2 minute comment from Mr. Alex, the CEO of BK Insurance, around the insurance question. He's over here, please. Here, please hand over the microphone. So just 2 minutes before the guest of honor joins us.
Murakoze. Hari ikibazo yabajije ku buryo abantu bagize accidents bari muri hospitals bishyurwa. Ubundi ubusanzwe ibigo by'ubwishingizi byumvikana n'amavuriro ku buryo iyo umuntu ufite ubwishingizi ari mu bitaro, ikigo cy'ubwishingizi cyohereza urwandiko kuri ibyo bitaro kikavuga ko umuntu ari umukiriya wabo kandi yishingiwe, namara kuvurwa invoice izoherezwa ikigo cy'ubwishingizi kikishyura. Cyokora hari ubwo insured adashobora kujya muri hospital idafite iyo arrangement, bigatuma bamusaba ko yishyura mbere y'uko ikigo cy'ubwishingizi gitanga iyo leta. Ibyo birashoboka. Ubwo icyo twakora nk'ibigo by'ubwishingizi ni ugukomeza kubishishikariza abavura abantu ko igihe babonye umuntu ufite ubwishingizi bamuvura, hanyuma ikiguzi cy'ubuvuzi kikazashyikirizwa ikigo cy'ubwishingizi. Ndumva ari icyo navuga.
Thank you very much. I think we shall have to close the interaction session here as we wait for our guest of honor. One thing I'm sure of is until the next report, we shall continue to dissect and discuss these numbers and what it means for our businesses. So really, I'm very positive of that. We might not have been able to exhaust all the questions here, but as someone who really consumed the FinScope before, I know that until the next report, we shall continue to have discussions around the FinScope. Ladies and gentlemen, as we receive our guest of honor, I'll let you know. Please, you help me and stand up with a big warm of applause as we receive him in the next couple of minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor has arrived. Please stand up and join me in welcoming the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda, Dr. Edward Ngirente. Right Honorable Prime Minister, we appreciate your invaluable time as you join us today as the RWANDA FinScope 2024 is being launched. Present here are FinScope sponsor institutions, leaders, being the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, the National Bank of Rwanda, the National Institute of Statistics, and Access to Finance Rwanda. We are also with our esteemed sponsors for the RWANDA FinScope 2024, the government of Sweden, MasterCard Foundation, the Luxembourg Development Cooperation Agency, LuxDev, and the Rwanda Bankers Association. Present in the room are also various public and private sector representatives, development partners, and other stakeholders to achieving this FinScope 2024 report. This morning, we had the privilege to see the unveiling of the main findings of the FinScope 2024. And Right Honorable, I will recapitulate for you the key highlights of the report. The overall financial inclusion has moved from 93% in 2020 to 96% in 2024, while formal inclusion really rose from 77% in 2020 to 92% in 2024. This shows a great improvement in formalization of financial services, and this has been driven mainly by mobile money, followed by SACCOs, as well as insurance and pension. On the formal inclusion, the gender gap, the Right Honorable has moved and reduced from 8% to 4%, but we still notice that men are more banked than the female population in terms of absolute numbers. That makes up the main numbers of the FinScope report, Right Honorable. And the report was followed by interesting conversation of a panel of experts that enabled us to discuss more of the numbers. The panel discussed the strategies to enhance usage beyond just access to financial services. And the industry players, as well as the National Bank of Rwanda as the regulator, discussed the different strategies to reverse the gaps that are still present. And at this moment, Right Honorable Prime Minister, allow me to welcome the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning for his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers, the Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, Excellency Ambassador of Sweden in Rwanda, Excellencies, heads of foreign missions present here, the Deputy Governor, the National Bank of Rwanda, heads of development cooperation, chief executive officers, and managing directors of financial institutions, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me, Right Honorable Prime Minister, to thank you for honoring to be the guest of honor at this occasion, in spite of your very busy schedule. Thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this ceremony, launching results of the 2024 FinScope survey. Universal financial inclusion and access to financial services is critical for robust
economic development and making sure that no one is left behind in this process. The FinScope survey is a nationwide survey that covers around 14,000 households, and it's very useful in allowing us to understand what is happening in terms of inclusion in the financial services, but also related services beyond just inclusion. Right Honourable Prime Minister, this morning a presentation of some key survey findings and the discussions that followed highlighted that financial inclusion in Rwanda for adults above 16 years has reached 96%. This is about 7.8 million people in 2024, from 93% in 2020, a 3% increase between 2020 and 2024, in spite of the challenges that we experienced with COVID-19. And this brings us closer to universal access to financial inclusion. However, 4% of the eligible population is not yet covered, and this is down from 7% in 2020. So we have around 4% of eligible adult population that is not yet covered in terms of financial inclusion. The findings further show huge growth in formal financial inclusion from 77%, about 5.4 million people in 2020, to 92%, 7.5 million people in 2024, surpassing the 90% target that was set for 2024. The uptake and use of other formal non-bank products and services has drastically increased to 70% in 2024, from 55% in 2020. And this was largely driven by mobile money usage, insurance and pension services, with mobile money pushing the boundaries both for young people but also for the elders, senior population. However, inclusion is still high among young adults, between 16 and 17%. Actually, the 4% that is excluded is mainly because of young adults between 16 and 17 years. That from the data that we see is mostly because they are not yet fully economically active. Right Honourable Prime Minister, I take this opportunity to thank Access to Finance and its generous funders. This milestone, especially the steering and technical committees made of teams from Access to Finance Rwanda, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, the National Bank of Rwanda, the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, and the research firm. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, Finance and Economic Planning. Again, our heartfelt gratitude, Honourable Prime Minister, for joining us today, and we would like to invite you to deliver your remarks for today. You're welcome, Honourable Prime Minister.
Honourable Ministers here present,
senior government officials, members of diplomatic corps, development partners, distinguished guests, a very good morning. I'm pleased to be part of this important occasion this morning as we launch FinScope 2024 Indicators Report. I wish to begin by thanking all institutions and partners that work together in conducting this 2024 survey. As you know, financial inclusion surveys have become an important source of valuable data that inform evidence-based policy and decision-making. Globally, financial inclusion is positioned as an enabler of other development goals or targets. It is featured as a target in 8 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It is also a key driver of sustained and balanced economic growth, which helps reduce income inequality and poverty. Global efforts to promote financial inclusion have resulted in significant progress. According to the 2021 World Bank report on financial inclusion, globally, 76% adults have access to financial services. This represents a very good increase of 24 percentage points from 2011, when only 51% had access to financial services. A robust financial ecosystems contribute to overall economic resilience. As more people access formal financial services, the economy becomes more stable and resilient. Encouraging formal savings channels and promoting responsible borrowing practices can further enhance financial inclusion and contribute to economic growth. Distinguished guests, the government of Rwanda appreciates the regular publication of FinScope reports carried out every 4 years. The report provides insights into Rwanda's financial inclusion landscape, highlighting its progress and dynamics. The report also offers strategic information to stakeholders regarding market opportunities in the country's financial sector. The government of Rwanda appreciates the findings of the FinScope 2024. One of the positive trends highlighted in the report is a considerable increase in the financial inclusion rates from 93 in 2020 to 96 in 2024. This progress brings us closer to our target of achieving universal access to financial services. We are also happy to hear that the gap between rural and urban financially included adults reduced from 6% in 2020 to 2% in 2024. The government of Rwanda has been proactive in recognizing its significance and has implemented a series of measures to ensure that the dividends of economic growth reach even the most vulnerable members of our society. To achieve this, we have expanded the bank branch network, introduced priority sector lending schemes, promoted self-help groups and saving culture, as well as advanced mobile money services. As a result, the reach and impact of the financial inclusion have experienced remarkable growth in recent years. The dynamic evolution of technology has played a key role in promoting digital services. The mobile money ecosystem, in particular, has catalyzed a transformative shift in the landscape of financial inclusion. Additionally, we have worked tirelessly to establish robust digital infrastructure at the grassroots level, ensuring universal access to convenient, secure, and affordable digital payment solutions. In our ongoing efforts, we prioritized addressing the needs of vulnerable segments within our economy and population. At the same time, we remain committed to consumer protection and enhancing customer police capacity, ensuring the responsible and sustainable use of financial services. Our distinguished guests, I would like to tell you that the government of Rwanda would like to commend the resilience of Rwandans during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. As highlighted in the reports, the pandemic affected over 60% of Rwandans' livelihoods. Despite this negative impact, it's encouraging to note that 16% of adults embraced various financial tools during this difficult time. In this regard, we recognize the important role mobile money is playing in terms of expanding formal financial inclusion and reaching out to groups previously not included. Before I conclude, let me emphasize the following key takeaways as we continue our journey toward universal financial inclusion that is critical for development of our country. First, as a government and stakeholders, we recognize our responsibility to ensure that all Rwandans have a financial inclusion and access to affordable, useful financial products and services that meet their needs. Second, I encourage the financial service provider to continue expanding access to financial services through innovative product development with a particular focus on reducing costs for low-income customers. Third, given the growing adoption of digital financial services, I would like to urge financial service providers to strengthen their systems for detecting financial crimes and identifying illegal or fraudulent transactions. This will play a key role in safeguarding the client's money. Equally important, the general public is also reminded to be vigilant and report all suspicious financial transactions to law enforcement organs. To prevent falling victim to financial crimes, citizens are advised to only engage with licensed financial institutions. Finally, I would like once again to thank all those who played a role in preparing the FinScope survey. You have done a very good job. I'm confident that our efforts and the collective commitments will continue to lead toward a financially included and empowered Rwanda. And I also wish to emphasize that this report is not just data, it's a roadmap for prosperity. Let us leverage these findings to build a stronger and more inclusive Rwanda, one that thrives both domestically and globally. With these remarks, I declare the FinScope report, 2024 Main Indicators Report officially launched. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, for launching the report. If you could kindly remain on stage for a group photo. You will be joined by all the FinScope sponsor institutions, so BNR, NISR, Minecofin, Access to Finance Rwanda, all cabinet members present. Please join the group photo. The funders of this FinScope report, MasterCard Foundation, the Sweden Embassy, Jersey Overseas Aid, Rwanda Bankers Association, CEO Hannington, please join. Let's ensure we leave no one behind. Once again, let's recognize our guest of honor for joining us and for officially launching the FinScope report. I know many of you want to go home with the report, so here on the screens we have a QR code. Please scan it, and go home with the RWANDA FinScope 2024 main report. I will repeat, for those who want to go home with the report, the QR code we have on the screen, please, you need to scan it so that you could go home with your own PDF version of the FinScope report. Great. We have also come to the conclusion of this event. We thank you very, very much for your attendance, for your participation. You are all invited to a lunch reception here at the auditorium upstairs. The protocol team will help us usher our guests to where lunch is being served. We would like to stay with you, as I said before, as we continue to discuss the findings of this report, what it means, and the strategies we can adopt going forward. For the media in the room, you have an opportunity for a press conference as soon as our guests leave the room. Please stay here in this room to set up for the press conference. And with this, we conclude, and please, you're welcome to join for lunch.